Welcome to the Midlife Pilot Podcast. We are glad you're with us. What is it like to become a pilot in your 40s and 50s? The challenges are unique for those of us in midlife, but so are the rewards. Hosts Ben, Brian, and Ted talk learning to fly, growing as pilots, and the joy of flying to destinations. The purpose of the podcast is not to teach, but to share knowledge and experiences of being a midlife pilot. Join the Midlife Pilot community and listen in every week. We are not CFIs or particularly intelligent, so if you want to learn how to fly, talk to anyone else other than the hosts of a podcast. Even this intro was too challenging for us, and we used a robot to do it. Okay, checklists are complete. Let's get the show started.
Hello and welcome to episode 169 of the Midlife Pilot Podcast, where we share the experiences and challenges of flying in midlife. Today, we're fatigued. Well, maybe we're going to be talking about being fatigued.
But we're calm.
But we are calm. This episode with me is always my friend in Music Row. It's my friend Brian, who says he's logging. I'm not sure if he means wood or airtime, but welcome, Brian.
Welcome. So glad to be here. Super glad to have this guest that we have tonight that we haven't announced yet, that the audio people have no idea what's happening yet. But super excited to be here. And the logging part is, let's just say I'm working to combine the proper track logs and logbook entries and ForeFlight because it's making me crazy how the reporting doesn't show that I've met qualifications that I know that I've met. So I'm working on logging.
Been there, done that. Wait till you start multi-engine training. It gets infinitely more complex. So have fun with that.
All right.
Also joining us from the West Coast, our sport pilot extraordinaire, everybody's friend. It's our friend Ted. How you doing, sir?
Hey, doing good. I am glad to be here. And when you log the multi, do you have to log the single engine time separate from the multi?
Yes, you do, which is where that complexity jumps in.
Oh, wow. So out of 25 hours, you'll fly like 20 of them single engine.
So I spent about 7 hours over the weekend literally going line by line, only to realize that I was looking at the wrong total, that I was looking at the single engine total when I should be looking at the total my time. So yeah, that's just the joys of it. And for those on the video chat, which if you want, you could join us usually Monday nights at 8 p.m. at Midlife Pilot Podcast. I'm sorry, youtube.com/@Midlife Pilot Podcast. Joining us tonight, we have a guest. Her name is Gita Brown, and she is an educator, a student pilot, and she's also a host on the Calm Cockpit Podcast, which I have been listening to on the regular. She's joining us from a snowed-in cabin in Maine. Gita, we're so glad to have you with us.
I am so glad to be here, and thank God for the internet, because it is truly a blizzard raging outside right now. So I am just thrilled to be here. And can I please share how I manifested this to happen? Because this is kind of wild. I had manifested it without meaning for it to happen. So as you said, I'm a midlife student pilot. I'm marching towards checkride, right? And so I was like, okay, I have to get my ducks in a row. I can feel that there's some things missing. What do I need to push this thing through and get it done? Because I was kind of flailing a little bit. So I wrote down a list, what do I need for my mental performance training? What do I need for my training, blah, blah, blah. And under support, the very first thing I wrote was, I need my midlife podcasters help. The whole community, you guys, I was like, I need to engage with that community more as support, just to commiserate and, get me through to the end.
Yeah.
Next day, you send me a message, hey, can you come chat with us? I was like, okay, what? I asked for support and then there it came on. So I think that just speaks to your community that you have and just that nice vibe that I felt like it's a community that I can go to and receive some comfort, support, cheerleading, and also the tactical advice, how am I going to get through this last phase? So the fact that you came on and you're like, oh, can you learn us something? I was like, well, can you learn me something first? I'm really, really happy to be here. It's so nice to meet you guys and everyone in the community. Love you all so very much.
Thank you.
Wow.
That's awesome. And I'm just going to ask, just maybe note, you might want to just set the bar a little bit higher when coming to us for help. I mean, we're happy to help. We will give you all the help that you need, but There could be better resources out there.
I was going to say, this could be, why don't we just end it now? This was a really good.
This was great. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
A wrap.
Thank you.
And, end on a high note, right?
Now, what Gita didn't say is what she really wrote down is, if Ben can do it, I can do it.
That is so very true. Absolutely.
boy.
Absolutely. I do want to kind of go around the horn to check to see what everybody's been up to. I did a little fun trip. Woke up on Tuesday morning with nothing on the calendar, which was kind of pretty, it's kind of a relaxing thing. And I decided I'd never been to Montgomery, Alabama. So I hopped, and I saw something on Opposing Bases podcast about flying into a TRSA, Terminal Radar Service Area. It's not a Delta. It's technically a Delta, but it's not. It's just a different set of airspaces. So I was like, you know what? Let's go down there and check it out. It was a lot of fun. I met some pilots at a 135 charter that I'm hoping to apply to and get a job with. So it was great to talk with them. Pretty easy flight. And, that airport is right next. I mean, it's within miles of an Air Force base. So it was interesting. And I actually got to shoot an approach. But I heard a lot of different, the military uses PAR approaches and different types of things. So it was a good experience to kind of hear that stuff on the radio and get a different flavor of things. So that was a fun time, and it's been quiet. I don't know what I'm going to do this week, but I got to get some more hours. And you'll notice my subtitle tonight is in tribute to my friend Brian, who actually did a YouTube video called Time Having instead of Time Building.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I did that.
And you, Brian, did something as well this week, was the first, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So last week, I don't even know. I need to go back maybe and listen to the last week's podcast because I was probably hallucinating at that point. I
think you were in a fugue state. I think you were.
State, yes. Rogue state, fugue state, just one of the GUE states. But no, I was, and I think that maybe I was a little dark because, and by the way, I had a conversation with our friend, good friend, Nathan Ballard of the show, Master CFI, Nathan Ballard. I had a conversation with him the other day, and he kind of righted this for me, but he said, if you don't feel like you've just been beat up a lot, you didn't really have the full experience. And that's just, I think it's been a while since I've been through a check ride, and the private pilot check ride is just such a, kind of like, I don't know, Mom, can I do this? Like, and then this one was a little bit more obviously serious. They're not serious. I don't explain it. It's like, it's just deep and specific. And so I felt a little beat up after that check ride, and within hours was on this podcast talking about my experience. Since then, I can say two things. One, I'm okay. Two, I actually got to put the instrument rating to use 2 days later. And I will say that I think I mentioned that I didn't have any actual in my training, because wintertime. And so I went up with an instructor, obviously, my instructor. But it was just awesome. And I'm curious, Gita, I want to ask you about this actually before we go forward. But in that environment, 2 days after, I'd let myself calm down a little bit, getting in the plane with my instructor with the rating in hand and flying into 1,000-foot ceilings and being, in IMC for long stretch, flying an approach. It was so easy. It was so almost not boring, but just uneventful, not even remotely stressful at all. And I flew so much better than I did on my check ride. And so it's just, there's something about the wear and tear of it took everything I had just to get to the check ride. So having the check ride and then recovering after, and then just doing it. This is what it's all about. Boy, was it all of a sudden, I was a lot brighter about the entire experience. I thought, wow, this is really awesome. And I'm so glad that I can do this now. But it was definitely a very different experience than what I thought it would be.
Yeah. I think I'll say this for Gita's benefit and for your benefit, Brian, and to kind of bolster what Nathan said, the private pilot check ride, you don't know what you don't know. And I think of the instrument as the check ride process goes. You can watch and read and do all this, but until you're in that seat, you really don't know. The instrument check ride is, oh, so you think you know what a check ride's like. Let me show you what it's really about.
Yeah.
I do. I feel like that's kind of how it is. It's kind of a punch in the nose to wake you up and like, no, this is serious business. So, So Gita, tell us a little bit about where you are on your journey. Yeah. You're working on your private pilot now, if I understand correctly.
I am. So if I back a little bit farther back to give a little context.
Please.
I started flying begrudgingly would be the word. So I had a crippling fear of flying, like terrified. Like it took all of my yogini powers to get me on a commercial flight. And it was embarrassing and I was ashamed and it was the whole thing. And finally one day I said, like, I can't live like this anymore. This is ridiculous. And I thought one of the ways I could cure myself was to take a discovery flight because I feared if I flew in a little tiny Cessna, then maybe getting on a big fancy jet would be a little bit easier. And thank God the instructor was patient and kind and spent a lot of time with me. And I tell you though, when I took the controls the first time, I mean, I wasn't really flying. You know, he trimmed it out and I was pretend flying, right? But I actually had the controls. Something flipped and that fear just flipped into love. I mean, it just was like, it flipped right over and I went, now what am I supposed to do? I'm being an aviator. You guys know the whole midlife thing. Your whole life switches and now you have to reorient your whole life around this new thing. It was literally like falling in love with my husband. I had no choice. I love you, hubby, but I had no choice. So
my wife would say the exact same thing.
Reel me on in. So it's been a lot of like mental struggle for me to reorient my life around something that I never saw coming, if that makes sense. So I've gone through, I've passed the written, I've done all the requirements. I'm just tightening up the maneuvers and getting my oral check ride prep on point is where I'm at. I mean, it's imminent. So I can feel like that pressure cooker. And when I was listening to you talk about your instrument check ride last week, I was like, oh my God, it was just bringing up all of like the nerves and the feels. So I'm trying to put everything that I know from my, performance background as a musician and everything I know as a yogi and trying to just throw all of that in the mix and look at it like a performance and it's play and it's fun and the pressure is fun as well. So I'm trying to wrap my head around all of that as well as this whole new sort of life mission that I'm on, which still feels bizarre. It feels like I'm riding a wave that I didn't know I was going to be riding. So I am fully surrendered-ish.
Now,
in Massachusetts, and I also have a place up in Maine. So I have not been flying a lot because it's been snow and more snow.
Right.
Yeah. Now, Wendell Geek is wondering, has that alleviated your airline fear?
Oh, completely, 100%. Yes. I am like that obnoxious person who bounds on the airplane. And I actually work with a community that's called Love Fly. They work in partnership with Virgin Atlantic, and they help people who have a fear of flying to overcome that so they can fly commercially.
Amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's actually, I'm up here in Maine partly to finish recording a course for them, 21 Days of Self-Care with Gita in partnership with Love Fly, using self-care techniques in addition to exposure and cognitive behavioral techniques to get over that. It's something like 20% of people walking around the planet are terrified to get on a plane. It's a lot of people. You'd be really surprised. So it's been really cool to work with that community as well.
Not a lot of people know this, but famously, Arnold Palmer got his pilot's license because he had a extreme fear of heights and flying.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Did not know that.
Yep.
See, it's stories like that made me think wow, if they can do it, why can't I? And my dad flew sailplanes, which is the other little, ironic twist there. So it's been there's a lot of layers to Gita of what's going on here, in the life layers of, coming into one's own at midlife, which I know a lot of people can relate to.
Well, I don't want to get too John Coltrane right away, but
no, do it.
Yeah, you do.
Bring it on.
But there's such a through line between music meditation, fear, ego, navigating all of these things, and how do you juxtapose or reverse the kind of polarity between fear and ego, in the sense of like the fear part is, there's something you said earlier just about the way you described fear, and then there's something that comes with control, but there's some absence of ego that has to happen in that twist also. I hope I'm making some sense here, but that's you so quickly adapted to, you inverted your relationship to aviation in about 0.3 milliseconds, but in that time frame, a lot of things were turning around.
That's absolutely correct. Most fear I find for myself comes from attachment to the ego. I want this, I want that, or I'm afraid that I'm going to lose this or lose that, right? I'm going to bust the check ride, or my instructor won't think highly of me, or my midlife pilot people won't like me, like anything like that, right? Like that fear of acceptance, and that clinging then creates the suffering, which then creates the poor performance because you're trying to dominate life. And we were born to die. This is the reality of it. It's a rigged game. So like, how do you play with that edge all the time is the thing. So I love this comment by Peter. I feel like I'm in a Brian Siskin video. Yeah, this is like parallel universe kind of like, let's go deep into the philosophy.
Finally, some other weirdos.
Yes. I feel like you guys understand me.
I want to hit our friend Eric M. in the chat. Gita, I found my experience as a musician was a great mental foundation for learning to fly. And I've heard that.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of famous YouTubers, lead singer of Bare Naked Ladies and a bunch of others that are one of the Eagles tribute band. I can't think of his name, but he's pretty prolific on YouTube, flies at Malibu all over the country.
Be careful how you search for that band.
Okay.
Just
There are, though, a lot of parallels with, I'm a classical musician, right? So it's like discipline, training, hours in the practice room, but then how do you let that go when you're performing? It's like you have the discipline and the control, but you also have to surrender. So it's that fine line that you're always dancing, which is very, familiar. Now that I'm in aviation, I thought I was this cool, how can a musician fly? I'm this airy fairy musician. Now I'm like, oh, it's the same thing. Discipline, preparation, and letting go.
I have a weird question. I don't want to get all John Coltrane on you guys, but
Too late.
Again, you say your music background is classical. My musical life, whether this is accurate or not, it may be untrue, but classical musicians typically are very uncomfortable in the realm of improvisation, or in the absence of notation and organization.
Yep.
And conducting and, all of the systematic things. So I come from totally the opposite. I have no problem or any discomfort in improvisation and feeling things out and exploring, using different vocabulary, different muscle memory things, or doing different things. So I'm curious, if your background is classical and that's really more where you're coming from, do you think that so far in your pilot experience that has been helpful, or do you feel like that you've got to find a way to learn how to improvise a little bit through the medium of aviation?
That is a very astute observation, my friends. And I will say my whole background and initial training was classical music, but then I decided to become a music therapist and a music educator, which means like literally they would hand you a newspaper and they'd say, sing in the newspaper. And as a classical musician, I was like, what? You want me to sing an improv of the newspaper? Like there was a lot of work to unpack that, like not playing the notes.
Do you realize how hard it is to sing Rachmaninoff?
Seriously, much less like improv. This is Kleenex. It's very soft. But teaching kids with autism, music and all that, like you get over that real quick.
Yeah.
So I did though have to go through a lot of rubbing and scrubbing to let go of that, like that discipline, one note after the other, and to just let myself be free. It takes a lot of work to be free. What is this? It is a mind meld. But yes, I think having both of those things has helped me. I still have a long way to go though as a pilot. So Let me get through this initial check ride and then I can talk like I know what I'm talking about with that.
Well, definitely keep us posted on it. We love hearing it's not any pressure to whatever happens, because there are plenty of people in our community who have failed a check ride, and there are plenty of people that passed. I personally have failed. It's not that big of a deal. I do find this community extremely supportive, regardless of what happens. So
thank you. I bet.
Want to remind everybody, we have a big event coming up March 13th through the 15th. It's the Midlife Pilot Spring event, the Thaden Invasion from Bentonville, Arkansas, Victor Bravo Tango. We will have a wings event with our friend Seth Lake, VSL Aviation. I'm sure Ted will put a link in our show notes to his channel. And we're working on possibly getting a tour of the Gamebird facility. And for those of you who don't know, Gamebird has come onto the market with a very, very impressive acrobatic plane. From everything that I've seen on YouTube, it's going to be a strong competitor to a lot of the other extras and other planes out there. So please, if you want to join us in Bentonville, it's a first come, first served basis.
Free.
At Victor Bravo Tango, there's extra parking at Rogers Field, KROG, appropriately named. And, we're all going to be hanging out in Bentonville. So whichever airport you end up, it's going to be fine. We're not charging anything for this. And therefore, you can't blame us if you don't have a good time.
Yeah. And we did find out too that our good friend of the show, Erica Gilbert, is going to be flying in and offering, I believe, some Cirrus SR-22T, I guess, training opportunities or some
introductory flights or introduction to the Cirrus type flights.
So there's just a lot of things starting to come together. The Gamebird thing, I think, is going to come together. Love that Seth Lake is doing a wings credit seminar after breakfast on Saturday. There's a lot of amazing flying. Everybody's going to be jumping in planes and going to all the various grass strips and cool places around there. It's just going to be the coolest event. And we have our own dedicated lounge area with an inside and outside area in the upstairs corner of the FBO, which is the most beautiful FBO I've ever seen. We are going to be looking right at Final Approach, right there by the lake. And we have that place to hang out the entire time. Restaurant on the field also is amazing. So I just can't wait. We're getting close, guys. It's less than 3 weeks. We're going to have to hang out with each other for more than 1 hour.
Yep.
Ooh. Oh boy. No, I'm really
pressed. You got this. You got this.
Remember that there are CFIs available, and they've got some tailwheel backcountry planes. So if you are interested in going to some of the strips and you're not comfortable, sign up now with them to get a CFI or rent their plane, and they'll take you out to some of the cool strips that are in that area. It's Fly Oz is the name of kind of the program, all those cool backcountry strips.
And if you don't want to fly at all, there's an amazing free art museum right there. There's all kinds of fun things to do. And we're all just going to be hanging out all over the place. I don't feel like you got to, especially if you're flying in a long way, don't feel like you have to go get back in your plane if you just want to relax and enjoy yourself. So, but just give us the keys and we'll hold those for you.
And more to follow on that. We'll be talking about that as a nice main topic. Brian, why don't we go ahead and knock out the belly scrubbing? And
real quick. Join our Patreon community and help us keep the Midlife Pilot podcast ad-free. Your support makes the show possible, and every membership level gets you into our incredibly active Discord community. Our Orlando-Matic members are just $1 a month. That's 25 cents per episode. Get access to community-level Discord channels where pilots connect, share experiences, and support each other. At the Hershey bar level and above, you'll unlock more channels, expanded access to discussions on instrument training, plane ownership, and lots more, extended interviews, all kinds of things. And at the caps available, you get access to our Podcast Insiders channel, so you can actually not only see how the show gets made, but actually help us make the shows. We poll people in there constantly for guidance because we need it. 10% of every dollar goes directly to Freedom Aviation Network's anti-human trafficking efforts. And for everything Midlife Pilot Podcast, to support us on Patreon, send feedback, merch, event information, blog, and more, visit midlifepilotpodcast.com. And if you're enjoying this or just want it to stop, leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and we'll read it on the air, and then hit subscribe or follow in your podcast app. This helps other people find us. So please do that. Well, that's all I got.
Excellent. I want to kind of do our Patreon and Discord corner. At the Hershey Bar level, we have some new people this week. And that is Travis H. and Tango Oscar Mike. At the Beast Stole Kit level, we have Craig B. So thank you for joining us. In our accomplishments roundup for the week, the comment that Mark Wendell Geek said that everyone enjoyed was the quote from his wife: "You haven't flown me anywhere since July. We need to go visit your mom or go to the beach or something. You got to fly me somewhere." And there were a lot of comments about mission accomplished. This is what we wanted to hear. It's what we're all waiting for, that kind of thing. So
Will you talk to my wife, please?
yeah, achievement unlocked. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jim S. got his CFI checkride done.
Yeah,
So congrats on
congratulations, Jim. That's fantastic.
that. And Gary, who I call Gary Colorado, got his private written out of the way. So
Well
he's
done.
been doing his cross country. He's got his written done. So
All right.
kind of see what direction he's headed.
Awesome. So as we talked about earlier, tonight's episode is pilots versus fatigue, and which is why we brought Gita on. She is a yoga instructor, and again, she has the Calm Cockpit Podcast, which I found very helpful. The most recent one, and it's something that I've been thinking a lot, where she was a helicopter pilot, and she's also a nutritionist, and her name is, I'm drawing a blank on it. You maybe
Lachey Bacon.
So as I transition to Career 2.0, how I eat is going to be very important because I need to keep this medical and I need to stay healthy. So I found a lot of use and a lot of great nuggets in that one podcast. So
Awesome.
make sure everybody checks that out. We wanted to talk about fatigue. And I guess in my mind, there's a couple of different ways that we can approach this. And guys, I want you to jump in and let's see what Gita has to say about it. But so there's the physical fatigue of flying all day. But I wanted to share a story it was more of mental fatigue. And I think Brian is going to get to experience this probably sooner than later because
I'm experiencing it right now.
I really mean in the fact of instrument flying.
Yeah.
My story came from, and we've talked about it before on the podcast, but I did a Freedom Aviation Network flight, moving a person out of our situation that was not very good into a different, more supportive situation. And the weather was super challenging. And there was also the pressure of we needed to get this person away from where they were. And we actually ended up having to divert. But, when I went home, we diverted to the airport. I rented a car, dropped them off where they needed, and then drove, 30, 40 miles home. I think I was asleep before my head hit the pillow. And it wasn't because I was physically tired. It was because my mind was just wiped. You could ask me what 4 + 4 was, and I'm not sure I would have been able to give you a quick answer.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any thoughts in how you would approach combating mental fatigue? Would be my question.
Well,
Or is it just rest? Is that the magic?
so there's the short answer, which is nutrition. And then there's a larger answer of what are you doing every day to prepare your neural circuitry to be more robust so that you have more bandwidth when fatigue starts to deplete you. So keep in mind that to your thought patterns, there is no distinction between your body and your mind. That's just how we describe it here in the world so we can communicate what's going on. But your thoughts are going to be very largely determined by the food you're eating and what you're drinking. So for example, I know they say you are what you eat, but they don't teach us this in school. So if you think about something like electrolytes, sodium, magnesium, what else we have? Calcium, potassium, these are things that regulate cognitive function. They also regulate your nervous system to keep you calm and steady when you're shooting that approach and you have the vulnerable person in the passenger seat. They also help your mitochondria, which are these little things in your cells that help produce energy so your muscles can move the controls. That's just electrolytes that I'm talking about. So if you've been on a really long flight and maybe you've had only a little bit of water, but you haven't taken some electrolytes in with that water, how can your brain be clear and think clear thoughts? Because it literally does not have the biochemicals it needs to have the energy to produce the clear thinking. Does that kind of make sense?
100%, yeah.
That's just one thing, but we don't often think like, oh, I need electrolytes on a long flight like that. We just say, oh, drink more water. But if you're just drinking more water and it goes in the gut and then, pardon me, but you just excrete it out, it hasn't actually gotten to your cells. It hasn't actually gotten to your brain, which is something like 75% of your brain mass is water. So if you're dehydrated, you're going to be a little slower and not even notice it. So electrolyte solution is like a really crucial thing that I think pilots just need to do before flight. And then if you have a long flight, have some more. There's LMNT, element tabs you can take to put them in water. I also use Paleo Valley. Please don't drink Gatorade. You don't need the extra calories. You need the electrolyte solution. You don't need to replenish that. You're not, a marathoner unless you are. So
Rondo.
So plants crave.
Something simple like that, though. But that's just like one like tiny little example. Another example would be something like eating fruit while you're flying, if you like fruit or not. But something simple like cantaloupe, apple, banana. Please don't eat grapes because those are kind of a choking hazard. People really tend to suck those in. They tend to get stuck. You want to eat things, especially if you're a single pilot or you're in a seat where no one can Heimlich you. You want to really chew things that turn into liquid in the mouth before you swallow them.
What an incredible NTSB report that would be.
I got to say, I think that's brilliant because I would have not have thought about that.
Well, just, speaking as someone who works in the therapeutic yoga community, we think a lot about chewing and swallowing. And so you want things that are liquid by the time you swallow them so that also your body isn't trying to digest something thick and tough like a grape skin, but it can just go immediately to your cells. But if you're eating banana, apple, melon, things like that, you're also getting all of the micronutrients so that the brain can then think more clearly and you have less of a fatigue dip at the end of the flight. I think what most pilots try to do is they just try to like grit and gun through it, right? They're just pushing through. So I would really recommend eating things like that. So that's on like the more global picture. Front loading with fruit and also proper just nutrition before you fly.
Right.
Protein, is a new thing. But that's just a little thing like micronutrients, how much that can really influence your fatigue after. The other component that we don't often think about is oxygen. When we talk about it, I know I'm in the private pilot level and they talk a little bit about oxygen here and there, but we don't talk about how your breath pattern while you're flying can actually really change your alert states. So a lot of times as a yoga teacher, if someone says, oh, I'm having anxiety before a check ride, why is that on my mind right now? I wonder. We talk about lengthening the exhale because that is going to basically turn off your sympathetic nervous system drive, which is that fight, flight, kind of freeze, like really amped up thing that maybe you had a little bit of skinned when you were in your ride, on point. So when you lengthen the exhale, you get the parasympathetic nervous system going, which is the more resting and relaxing. However, if you're really fatigued then and you're wiped out at the end of a flight, it's actually the opposite breathing pattern we want. We want to take in more oxygen because besides glucose, your brain needs oxygen. Those are the two things it loves. So we want to actually be taking a full, sharp, rapid, robust inhale and kind of holding it and then just exhale naturally. That rush of oxygen can really, really help. But you got to practice that on the ground before you go flying. Please don't go out there flying and say, I'm going to do that breathing thing. And then
I do that to skew the numbers on my pulse oximeter.
Okay.
Let's see what can happen there.
How many of you just did a sharp intake of air just now?
Right?
Yeah.
These things are really, really nice things to try. Did I sort of answer your question? I mean, I can go
100%. No, all of this is very great information. Absolutely.
I have more and more and more that we can talk about, but just the basic thing that I think people always get wrong is they're like, how can I improve my mind with my mind? And I'm like, your body does not care if you think you're fatigued or you think you have energy. The body has needs that you have to meet in order to produce the feelings that you want to feel. So you have to kind of start with the house, which is your brain and what you're putting in the body. And then from there, you can work on the thoughts. But if you don't have that, you can't power through it. You'll always hit a wall.
Yeah. I want to hit some comments here. Mike Alpha Golf, who has great medical knowledge, summarized it well. the brain is 2% of the total weight of your body, but consumes 20% of your energy supply. It's very sensitive to the supply of electrolytes, energy, and oxygen. It's well said. We don't tend to think of that as very important because relative to the size of our body, and we think about our muscles and things like that.
Yeah.
And Checkmate Barry says, what about strategic hydration? This is my one kind of rant for this episode, which is I really don't like strategic dehydration. I think that it does a disservice. Learn how to pee in your plane or stop often enough that you can take care of that. Going on a long flight dehydrated just means that you're handicapping yourself. And I need all the brain I can get. I don't need to diminish my brain power when I fly. So I'm very much a fan of staying hydrated. I do Gatorade. I stick them in the freezer and then I put them in a soft-sided cooler. And so I drink those and water and have my fruit there and that kind of thing. And they're my ice packs. And yeah, so I'm a fan of hydration, just saying.
I have a question actually about hydration also. Is there, it starts the day before, doesn't it? I always at least felt like when I was doing when I was younger, playing soccer or later, cycling or things, I could really tell that I was trying to make up for lost time and it wasn't working.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're 100% right about that. Again, as humans, we like to parse things out, right? There's the body, then the mind, and they're separate. Like, well, actually, biologically, they're not. Your body doesn't hit reset when it wakes up in the morning and say, oh, yeah, if you drink 16 ounces of water now, but you've been dehydrated for 3 weeks, I'm good to go.
Yeah.
It is much more about that robustness that you're living your life, which was kind of the other point I mentioned when I started my rant after Ben asked, which is those long-term global strategies that you're using in your life for quote unquote fatigue overall are the real things that move the needle. So just being hydrated every day as a matter of what you do is a fantastic thing because then you're building a more robust system overall. And I cannot let a single moment of anything go or anyone ask me to talk about this without talking about meditation.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to move away from elimination for a moment.
Yeah.
Meditation, because we have so much robust research from, the 6,000 years of tradition of human beings telling other human beings their subjective experience to functional MRI to, controlled studies. I mean, we just have ample evidence of building this long-term robust brain. Ben, I'm thinking about you, Pilot 2.0. You want to go in with this amazing neural circuitry that has so much more capacity so that when you get tired, instead of being tired down to a level 2 out of 10, maybe it's a 5 out of 10, which is a very different feeling experience for then the flight you're going to do 2 or 3 days later.
Right.
So, meditation is going to downregulate cortisol and adrenaline, which long-term elevated levels of those is inflammation, stress, leads to high blood pressure, bad outcomes, right? It's going to lower your blood pressure, decrease your pulse rate in good ways so that you have a more even flow to the body, which then subjectively, mentally, we experience as a more steady state of awareness. Meditation, we know it's going to help regulate your serotonin, which will help you get that sleep. When your head hits the pillow, you'll have that deep, restful sleep, not the restless sleep where you wake up and you feel like you haven't slept. Ask me how I know about that one. We also know that meditation is going to help kind of regulate dopamine so that you get that nice positive feeling. You have that joyful feeling. I mean, that's what you had going on there after you did the checkride and then you went flying with your CFI. You're like, oh, this is feeling good. All of these states meditation can bring you so that you think of your brain, it's just this amazing machine that then when you go to tap it, it can rise to the challenge. And when it gets depleted, it's not getting depleted so far because on the daily basis, not just when you're flying, but on a daily basis, you've asked it to be able to exist both in a state where it's concentrated, but relaxed. And that is a real sweet spot for life. And I think for me, it's been a nice longevity thing. I lose my mind slightly less often now because I meditate. Before I really,
midlifers, we're just trying to mitigate the number of times we lose our mind.
Seriously, right? Just at least come back a little quicker. Let me just be bah, and then go, oh yeah, right. Sorry,
Okay.
here I am again. Got it.
Yeah.
Laugh and move on,
Lose it, but put some sort of a tag on it that you can use your phone to go find it. No,
Sure.
but- so my quick follow-up here is just a lot of people, I think, hear meditation and go, okay, that's not me, or that's not something, I'm not into that, man,
Yep.
or even people like me that I think that I've been meditating in different ways my whole life, especially with
Absolutely.
around music and other things where I'm not sitting in I'm not burning Nag Champa and sitting on a pillow and
Totally.
all of that, or at least not since college. And so the point is just, what would you, if you were to give the leanest, meanest midlife pilot, never meditated before, you can meditate, it's easy, just do this, it takes these things, 30 seconds or whatever. What's the fast track to meditation?
I can hear my teachers now going, there are no shortcuts.
Yeah.
Like
So
asking,
what's the slow track to meditation?
Yes.
Okay, so, can I just say for a moment, for the record, that modern commercial media has like ruined traditional wisdom practices, right?
Yes.
Because I just got to say, every time you see like a yogi or a meditator, they're always some goofy person who does not have their life together at all. I was going to say together, right?
Yeah, yeah.
They're nuts. Man, you just look at everything in media. We just like a bunch of kooks. So here's the deal with meditation. It is not necessarily, most of my students I teach high schoolers, preschoolers, busy executives, nurses, like you name it. I've taught doctors, the whole deal. Most people, there's a couple of resistances to meditation. See how this resonates for you guys. It may be true, maybe not. Some people think they can't do it because their mind is too busy, or they say they can't do it because they don't have time. Or when they get really honest, they're like, I'm afraid what I'm going to see if I actually look at my thoughts, I don't really want to hear what's in there. So I'd rather just move on.
Yeah.
Or just like, I'm afraid I'm not going to be good at it. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, right? Like there's that competency factor. So nutshell version of meditation is picking a point for your focus and concentration. It can be, some people use the breath. They feel the breath moving in and out of the nose, breath moving in and out of the body. Some people count the breath. Some people sit with open awareness and they just watch the thoughts go by and they just label them, judging, thinking, worrying, fearing. I do mantra meditation, whereas I repeat a syllable. I'm a musician. Hello, I love to go Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, and just repeat sound. As a meditation, when my mind wanders, I bring it back. But here's the nutshell thing. Meditation is training your concentration. That's it. So every time you notice that your mind has wandered and you brought it back to whatever it is you're doing, that is meditation. The thing that makes it a practice is that you say, I'm going to sit down for a specific amount of time, and I'm not going to use an external thing like, for me, my clarinet or my airplane or my watercolors. I'm not going to use anything extra. It's just going to be me and my mind concentrating on a single thing. It can be looking at a flower, looking at a candle, chanting a mantra, following the breath. But that one thing is just me and myself sitting there, and I'm just going to refocus again and again and again. And what's interesting is that if you do that long enough, there sometimes is a moment, just a glimpse of stillness and a little flutter of a little higher awareness happening there. I was like, whoa. And then, of course, you come back to, oh my gosh, I got to take the dog out and the cat is whining and it's a blizzard and blah, blah, blah. Meditation is refocusing the mind. That's all it is. I can't do it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Sorry, I tried.
I got a couple of follow-up comments. So I will tell you, I started meditating on a regular during COVID because we were holed up, and me and two of my three sons all did this, and each on our own. And sometimes it's just a 4-square breathing pattern.
Yeah.
I wear a watch that measures my heart rate, and it calculates my stress levels, and it also gives me a sleep score. And I'm very very, very conscious of not only how much sleep I get, but the quality of the sleep I get. And I was playing around with it. I just got an upgraded watch, and it was amazing because it was telling my stress level was at 36, which is pretty low. It's not that bad. And then I did 4 square breathing, and it was 18. And that was 4 minutes or 5 minutes of just breathing in on a 4 count, holding it 4 count, exhaling 4 count, and then holding it for a 4 count. And it blew me away at how, oh, okay, now I'm ready. It was a very nice reset, even if something you do for 5 minutes. I also found an app. I don't even know if it still works. I do check it every now and then, but I have your podcast now that I can listen to some bonus audio with some nice meditations to it. Go ahead, plug in that. But Insight Timer is the name of the app.
That's a great one.
Great. And there's a paid version. There's a free version.
Yep.
I do. I feel like it's when we talk about instrument training and being in helmet fires, that you're training your muscle to handle a helmet fire. And I think meditation is like going to the gym to handle helmet fires.
Absolutely. That's brilliantly said. We always talk about in yoga classes, and I especially tell like when I'm teaching high schoolers and young kids, we're doing yoga and meditation like on a mat or on a cushion or in a chair, however you do it, for half an hour a day, maybe. There's 23 and a half other hours in the day. What are you letting your mind do all of those hours? Right. You're letting it run here and there and everywhere, and on your phone and on this and on that. If you can bring that quality of presence and awareness throughout your day, even sprinkled as micro practice, that is phenomenal. It's the training. It is absolutely the training. That's why they call it a practice, because you're practicing so then you can go out in the real world and actually hopefully be a little more present, be a little more aware, a little less reactive, and seeing things with more clarity. I mean, meditation has shown me, all of my faults. There they are every day, again and again. And then I can be a little more compassionate with myself and hopefully with other people as well, which is never a bad thing, I think. No. Yeah.
Wanted to hit our friend Mike Alpagos. He's got 2 comments that I think are worth bringing out. Number one, he agrees with everything you're saying. He says, as a Western medicine doc, I agree. Eat real food, get your heart rate to the target zone, and learn to meditate. Period. End of story. And then he goes on to say, we think we're so smart, but we have so little command over our own minds. We can't focus on our breath for 5 minutes without getting distracted by our own thoughts.
What was that?
Yeah.
Huh?
What were we talking about?
So true.
I think there's great points. Yeah. What else, Brian? You look like you're about to say something.
No, I have many thoughts. Most of them errant, and I have restraint, and I don't say them. But no, I guess. So we've talked about maybe the mind from the hydration and the meditation and all of that. When you're in the airplane, and I'm trying to just bring it into sort of a situational flying example. So you're in the airplane, you're experiencing some form of oversaturation, and you're cognizant of it. But I think the thing that is stressful about the feeling of saturation is it feels like there is more back pressure than you have the will to overcome. So it's kind of like drinking from a fire hose. You are aware of what's happening, but you don't have the wherewithal to combat it or to calm it. And that momentary feeling of maybe a helplessness or something, or just a confusion, creates a bunch of downstream, these echoes of that problem and that effect. So we've all been there. So what would you say to someone who is maybe a newer pilot like yourself that is experiencing that kind of saturation within the construct of something that actually is dangerous or a risk on some level? Typically, people have these anxieties related to things that are, you can step back and go, hey man, it's just a tuna casserole. Like, just settle down, or whatever. But in this case, it's rightful to be concerned, and then rightful to be very concerned that I'm oversaturated and I cannot overcome it. When you reach those moments for a new or experienced pilot, what would you say are is there God forbid, an acronym or like is there a,
I feel a t-shirt coming out real soon.
Right. There's the I'm safe. There's the I'm doomed. There's the oh God.
The damn it all.
The make it stop. No, but I'm just curious if you had any nuggets.
Any nuggets there. Well, you're asking me and I'm so new to this journey. So ask me in 5 years, ask me in 10 years. I'll be really curious to see what I think then, because I'm literally figuring this out one flight at a time, right? How to bring all of this into it. What I have found has helped me so far, because I have a lot of helmet fires. Just given my background in fear of flying, I got over that. But at first it was saturation from all the levels. What I have found that helps me, I like to talk. Guess what? The writer and podcaster. So I found what helps me, particularly if I'm flying solo and I'm getting a little overwhelmed, is I literally will stop and say, just enunciate how I am feeling. Say it out loud. I'm feeling overwhelmed. These 3 things are happening. What do I need to focus on next? And then continue. Partly why this works is it stops the domino effect that you were explaining, that one thought leads to another. And this is, again, when you meditate, you see it happening, that it happens so quickly. And yes, you're aware that you're seeing it, but you're also aware that you can stop the dominoes. You can pull the one out that's going to stop the other ones from falling. And that is just acknowledging out loud what is happening, not being afraid to say, I'm feeling overwhelmed. Here's how I'm going to handle it. It does something important physiologically, though. When we speak out loud, and if you say, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm noticing that these 3 things are happening, I need to focus on what's coming next. You're exhaling when you say that. Mm-hmm. And when we lengthen our exhale, you're stimulating the vagus nerve, which is a really complicated cranial nerve that I won't go all the way into, but it connects from the brain down into the gut. And many of the nerve receptors that go up into the brain actually originate in the gut and transmit up into the brain. So when you speak out loud and you say a long sentence and you go blah, 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 like I'm going now, you're stimulating that vagus nerve on the exhale, which triggers the parasympathetic nervous system to switch on, gets you out of that fight or flight mode and starts to move more into a resting mode. Now, you're not going to switch all the way there because you're flying a plane, right? So you're not going to go into like Om meditation, deep relaxation land, but it's enough of a shift that, again, the neurochemistry can then subjectively, you can feel that your mind is slowing down. So instead of, again, trying to always use the mind to fix the mind when it's running away, go in through the body, lengthen the exhale, and that biochemical chain will then create the conditions where the mind itself, the chemical stew that is your brain, can then think thoughts in a more sequential pattern. Lengthen your exhale. It'll do it every time.
Do you have any recommendations for when you discover that you're in the helmet fire or you're well down that path already? Not the trying to put yourself in a good place, but you realize you're at the wrong end of
You're at the wrong end. Yeah, I think it's always present moment awareness. Some other things that have helped me is actually, I think one thing I did a few weeks ago with the folks when we did a Sunday morning gathering for the future CFIs of the midlife pilot podcasters, which is just a 5-point reset. It's literally like just very quick. You have to practice it on the ground before you're in the helmet fire, right? But it's just bringing awareness. It's just resetting your posture. It's just bringing awareness to the feet, feeling them on the floor on the rudders, releasing the hips, lengthening the spine, relaxing the shoulder, raising the crown up. So just if you train that sequence on the ground and get used to feeling that stability in the body, in a moment of crisis, I can usually kind of catch myself and like reestablish my authority over this system, the body and the mind. And then I can re-engage with what I'm doing. Those things really do tend to help because, again, you're just trying to stop the dominoes of the brain, and the body is a really great brake. If you put a brake on the body, the mind will follow that. And in Western culture, we tend to forget that. It's the greatest hack. It really does work. So, yeah.
We tend to get that a little bit backward.
We do.
I think that I was saying about this earlier that it's like, the Instagram and TikTok are kind of the worst for lengthening your attention span. And
Totally.
this isn't about specific apps, but it's about when you stop and you immediately look at your phone and it kind of breaking that habit. But we're in this very high attention world, and it's easy to get into the plane and want to be in a high attention environment. And so you think that you thrive being at the beginning of this helmet fire, and probably not. It may be what you're used to is this feeling of pressure. But I think a lot of that is learning that that's true and learning how to back off from that. And yeah, definitely if you're in that situation, it's a little bit late. You need to get the habits built before that.
Yeah, absolutely. Ted, you're so right, though. A big component we're talking about pilot fatigue is building a lifestyle where you don't have that built-in hurry, rush, fill every space with information and input and stimulus. Just think about how noisy the planes are that we fly and the vibration that's happening through the body and all the cognitive things you're doing. If then we go home, and I'm guilty of this, listening to a podcast on the drive home, and then I get home and then, I'm checking Facebook, and it's just constant. The brain needs white space. It needs quiet. That's where the learning and the integration of memories actually occur, is when we have quiet and rest. It's like just as vital as all the work we do. So yeah, unhooking from the apps or using them with more intention is a really great way to combat that fatigue. So you're not coming at things, you're right, with this like hyper alert, hyper aroused, go, go, go system. Brian Schiff has that great phrase. It's there are two speeds, slow and screw up. And I think of that all the time when I'm flying, because I'm like rushy, right? You can hear me now, right? I'm so excited. I love life. I'm always like, slow down, one thing at a time. You're just taxiing. So
yeah.
Maybe less caffeine for me would help too, but I love coffee. So there it is.
I'm not giving up caffeine. No, that's a deal breaker.
Yeah.
I was going to say, and I believe I heard this or there was a commentary on Opposing Bases. I can't remember exactly where, but the concept is be bored.
Yes.
Put yourself in a situation, because that's what we're not doing these days is we're not being bored. And I think that sets us up for these moments to meditate.
Yeah.
We're in the age of, most of us kind of remember the pre-internet days, and we're kind of the last generation of this, but it's like, we remember being bored. And our bodies did not evolve in our lifetime to understand the saturation of information and attention and dopamine everywhere.
I was once I was in the Las Vegas airport, and I just walked into the terminal and I looked around.
Can only imagine.
And there were, and I'm seeing hundreds of people in one shot, and every single human being in my view was looking at a phone. And I just thought to myself, I could strip naked. I could do anything right now. These people have no idea what is happening around them at all.
It sounds like you're in a Stanley Kubrick film or something.
It felt like it.
Yeah.
No, that's a great way to put it. So the other thing I wanted to run by you really quick is when you talk about the deliberate nature of slowness. Side note, have you ever seen the movie Baraka?
No.
Highly recommend.
Adding it to the list.
Yeah, it's not for everybody, okay? But I'll tell you this. It's from, I believe, I want to say mid to late 80s.
92.
92,
Close
okay.
enough. Yeah.
And it is unbelievable. It's sort of like a Koyaanisqatsi of the next generation. Koyaanisqatsi being a visual narrative film that has no dialogue, and just the visuals tell the story. Baraka is
your reference for the reference helps me not at all.
Yeah. Well, okay. First, go watch.
Welcome to our world.
Look, man, go back and watch Koyaanisqatsi, then go watch Baraka. Okay, I'm not playing around here. So, but anyway, there's a scene in the movie Baraka where, and it's hard to explain how beautifully this is shot, but there is a monk on the sidewalk in Tokyo, and it's shot in real time. It's not high speed. It's not time lapse. It's not slow motion. And it's this beautifully framed shot of this monk who's ringing this bell And he is just so carefully and thoughtfully, almost painfully slow, putting one foot exactly in front of the other on the sidewalk while all of the hustle and bustle of Tokyo is happening at all speeds around him. And he's just so purposefully, even when he puts his next foot down, you can see him settling the heel into the rest of his foot and then getting his toes down on the sidewalk and kind of feeling the sidewalk and really solidifying the step, and then slowly raising the other foot and then bring it over to be, on the next step. And he's just ringing this bell about every, 5 seconds, just ding. And everything around him is going completely insane. That scene, and you can find a video on YouTube of just that scene if you just search for Baraka and Monk or something, Tokyo. But that scene, I think if you have some sort of iconography or a scene of in a movie or something to remind yourself of what that actually looks like when you see that, that's the example I go back to all the time of when I feel overwhelmed or when I feel like things are happening too fast. It's easy to say, well, slow down, or, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And that's okay. Yes. Or slow or screw up. That's true. But there's something about, especially when you're in a position, you can't even commit the act of slowness necessarily because of the situation that you're in. But if you can visualize a sort of iconic example to yourself of what slow and deliberate nature being applied in the physical world really is, then you can channel that as an inspiration to slow yourself down. And the last thing I'll say is I've got a video I made on YouTube that nobody cares about. It's called Do Easy. And it's partially using interview footage I interviewed Wayne White, who is the guy who did all the set design for Pee-wee's Big Adventure. And, he's a really amazing artist. And we were talking about his formative days working in a short order cook grill scenarios. He was an upcoming artist. And he said that he was practicing this William Burroughs concept of do easy, even when he was working at essentially kind of like a Waffle House place. Everything, every action, deliberate, where he placed everything, how he handled every utensil, the way he organized his space, everything was so, and what William Burroughs called do easy. And so I try to think of those two things, just DE or do easy. And I think about that Monk. And those are the two things that I reflect back on to try to get myself to slow down. Did any of that work on my checkride? No.
It did. I think it worked more than you did. I think perhaps your memories of what you think you performed as weren't accurate.
Well, I will just punctuate that with, I do remember on the final approach that I was doing on the checkride, and you start to feel the home stretch feeling of like, okay, if I get, like, it's mine to screw up now. This is the first approach I've done with all functioning equipment and a glide slope. This is going to be great. Just do it, right? And I was saying out loud, I was saying, make small corrections, make small corrections, make small corrections, make small corrections. I was saying it out loud. He must have thought I was a lunatic or figured out that I was a lunatic. But anyway, whatever you got to do, right?
Right.
I love having a visual anchor is what you're describing. And I'll just very briefly say that I'd done all of my yoga training at an ashram, and that functionally reset my expectation and my belief that I can move slowly and deliberately through life and simultaneously go out there and do all the things, right? Like I didn't move to the ashram to live there like a lot of my friends. Like I'm here in the world, and I feel like more and more I can stand still even as the stream of life is rushing against me. I can stand still because of the practices and because of the lifestyle that they teach there. Everyone has that within them. You just have to find your way to do it. Similar, I also train in Qigong, which is like Tai Chi. If you're familiar with Tai Chi, it's an internal Taoist longevity practice. And we practice it slow. And then we practice the movements fast in a combat style so that you have that application of feeling that inner stillness while you're engaging with the hurricane. So you can either be the hurricane or you can be the eye.
Ooh,
and it's really fun to play
That's
with
pretty
both
cool.
of those at the same time.
Yeah.
So everyone has that within them. You just find what you like to train that. And then when you get in the plane, hopefully some of that comes in, and then fatigue is less of a thing. It's always going to be a thing though, but at least you stack the deck in your favor.
That's right. I want to hit a couple more comments and we'll wrap up here. Again, from Mike Albagoff. Kayaneskatsi is the Hopi word for life out of balance. And then our friend Chuck, who is in the chat, says, I am listening to a book called The Deep Magic of Daily Consistency, which talks a lot about allowing yourself to be bored, give your mind time to wander, which I totally agree with. I do think there's going to be a breaking point, hopefully some point in time where people are just put their phones down. And
why do you think this podcast is so successful?
Exactly. We're doing our part. You're welcome. Gita, I'm so happy that you joined us this week.
Thank you.
It's great to meet you.
Likewise.
Again, for those of you who don't know, it's called the Calm Cockpit Podcast. And again, I found it very useful. I am a subscriber.
Yep, me too.
And we're really excited to have you on. And,
Thank you.
There's probably going to be a call down the road where we might need you to join us again.
Thank you. I'm sure I can speak for my co-host in the Calm Cockpit, John Niehaus, corporate pilot, CFI, all around, just fantastic human being. We're going to bring you into the Calm Cockpit. It's going to be a party. There's going to be 6 of us, 5 of us. It's going to be amazing. So I just love what you guys have created here, really. That's why I put on that little sheet of paper as I'm preparing for checkride that I need you guys, the community, just the whole thing you've created, because it can feel so lonely to do this work on your own. And for so long, I was thinking I was the only one struggling with this stuff because, I'm a yogi or a musician or all this negative stuff I had in my head. But just being with the community has made me realize, no, it's hard and it's unique. And somehow just doing it all together has really lifted me up. So thank you for all you've done for me. And you guys do great work here. Thank you.
Thank you. That's really kind of you to say. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, wrapping up, I want to remind everybody, leave us a 5-star review and don't forget to subscribe. Ted, Brian, anything else for the good of the order?
Yeah.
No, just check out the Calm Cockpit Podcast. And thank you, Gita, so much. This has been one of my favorite episodes. Thank you.
Yay.
And I have something that's a little bit off topic, but I want to give a pointer to it, which is, I don't know how many people are also space nerds, but NASA is so closely related to aviation. Scott Manley, who interestingly enough went from covering space to flying planes, but he covered the Boeing Starliner incident. There was a 800-page write-up in the last week or so. I was thinking about reading that, and he covered it, and that saved me about 800 pages to read. But NASA classified that as a Type A mishap, which is the same as the Challenger and Columbia and Apollo 13 and Apollo 1 and all that. Astronauts were going to spend about 10 days in space. They spent almost 300 days in space because they needed to come home on a different ship. And so it's a good, I'll put a link to his video, Scott Manley's video in the show notes, but it's a good one to kind of watch and think about, nobody died, and did we get away with something? And because it's one of the things we talk about in aviation is you may learn the wrong lesson from things you get away with. You may say that, well, nobody died, so everything's okay. And I can repeat this. And that's a terrible lesson to learn. So anyway, completely
thanks for the upbeat finishing note there.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So Scott Manley, it's good stuff. And
good stuff.
Completely off topic.
Yeah. On brand. Well done. I pulled today's bit of wisdom from a collection that was done by Matt Ryan at AvWeb. And I did this in honor of Brian for flying in the clouds for the first time.
Yeah.
It's not the smartest thing in the world to duck under the glide slope after breaking out of the clouds so as to land short. Many more airplanes crash into the approach lights after an ILS than go off the far end of the runway. Remember, there are no prizes for the shortest landing following an ILS.
Love it. Thank you.
Wow.
Signing off, episode 169 of the Midlife Pilot Podcast. Goodbye, everybody.